go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Ashlyn, and I'm the Assistant Director of Events and Volunteer Management for Grand Valley's Alumni Relations Office. If you have not done so, I see our chat's busy right now. Please feel free to introduce yourself, sharing your grad year, name, and why this session was of particular interest to you. As an Grand Valley alumni, our commitment to you is as a Laker for a lifetime. We will always be alongside you, helping you reach your career and life goals, offering you a lifetime of support no matter what stage of your life or career you're at. Tonight's workshop, or this afternoon's workshop, is the second installation of our career series. Through partnership with the Grand Valley Career Center, we are able to offer you in-depth career support that is specifically catered to our recent graduates and Grand Valley alumni searching for a postgraduate career. This afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing our workshop facilitator, Lisa Knapp. Lisa is a career advisor who works with students, faculty, and employers in communications, humanities, and liberal studies programs. She also works closely with our first and second year students as they begin exploring the world of work. Tonight, Lisa will guide you through programming that will help you develop the skills you need to identify and articulate your targeted job search description, leverage your networks, identify potential employers, and set up job search tools. Before I hand it over to Lisa, I do want to stress just a couple Zoom etiquette rules. This workshop is being recorded. We will share the recording out with you all after the workshop, and it will also be available on YouTube. Please be respectful of others participating in the workshop. If you need to conduct any business outside of the Zoom meeting, please mute yourself and turn off your camera before doing so. Lisa will give you time to work individually on particular prompts. Please feel free to turn your camera off during this time. Additionally, if you have any questions, they can be directed to Lisa in a private chat, or I will also be managing the group chat as well. I am going to go ahead and turn off my own screen just so that we don't have any internet issues. But like I said, I'll be here monitoring the chat. And Lisa, if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you so much. This is kind of fun. I'm watching some familiar names pop up onto the screen and some new people as well. So thank you for taking some time and introducing yourself. I really appreciate that. We are going to spend the next roughly hour, right, kind of going over what the goals are. So when you leave here, we're hoping that you would be able to identify and articulate some job descriptions that might be of interest to you, that you would be able to identify and leverage some of your existing connections and networks. A lot of times we think we don't have networks. Identify employers that would like to explore and practice outreach with, and then set up your job search tool and targets list. So we are going to start some of those things tonight. We won't necessarily finish them, but hopefully you will leave here feeling confident about your ability to kind of get organized and move forward. I know a lot of you are new grads. Remember, I'm just going to open with the Career Center is here for you. You're a Laker for a lifetime, so we don't go away. And we're excited to partner with Alumni Relations on this experience. So I like to start with a little bit of humor. I think it kind of keeps things in perspective. So I spent a little time looking up the job search memes. I'm not going to necessarily read them to you, but this is a pretty common thing. You know, you can raise your hand or put a thumbs up if you have felt like this, right? You're supposed to get experience. How do you get experience if you can't get experience, right? Then we have, oh, I'm not in charge of this. Am I moving them? I don't know if Ashlyn went away. Yep, there. So yeah, this one, maybe you've been looking at job postings and you're like, I don't know if this is real, is this a scam? And then lastly, when you see job search memes during your job search and you're kind of like, great, people are making fun of me. It's not very helpful, right? Always. But we know that memes are kind of reflective of things that are going on in society. Just
I
one,
am so sorry here.
that's
I'm
all right.
having internet issues. Folks,
Do you want to,
if your videos are on, it looks like most people's are off. Please, if you wouldn't mind turning them off, just it will help us be able to continue to share without having any breaks in the internet here.
okay. I wondered if that was happening. Do you want me to share the PowerPoint? Is that,
Sure, as long as it's not disruptive to you, that might help. And
nope,
then
I
I'll be
think,
here to monitor the chat and such.
yeah, let me try that. Okay, so because I don't completely know, could somebody give me a audible, like,
Looks good. You
we
just
go,
have to,
okay,
yep, you're just not in presentation mode, but otherwise
and
looks great.
should we go back and start over or no? We'll just, I don't know who heard what. Okay, so is this working?
Yep, looks great.
All right. So yes, everybody in your life might be telling you, just go get a job, like it's the easiest thing to do. And then we talked about sometimes things just throw you a run for your money, don't they? We're going to work out here this. Okay, so Ashlyn, will you walk me through why I can't? There we go. Now I'm moving
Yep.
it forward. All right. That wasn't working at first, but it is now. All right. So we talked about job postings aren't real. We're looking at them, not necessarily out there. And then humor based on my pain. I think we touched on that a little bit as well. Here's what I would tell you is if you are feeling this way, this is not intended to like make you feel like your situation isn't unique or like you haven't been doing all the right things, but just it's meant to serve as kind of a fun reminder that a lot of people have similar experiences when they're doing the job search. It feels like it should be simple, but it's not easy, right? Simple, but not easy. So simple steps of a job search. We're going to start there. There are a lot of books you can read out there about job searching. There are a lot of experts. You can find a lot of people on Instagram and TikTok and websites like themuse.com. They all have great career advice and they all talk to you about how to set up a job search. Basically, it boils down to these 5 steps. Understanding what you bring to the world of work, right? What are your skills, experiences, and knowledge? What are your options? You need to explore your options. Then you need to prepare your job search tools. And we're not necessarily going to prepare the tools tonight because there is an upcoming seminar on creating a wonderful resume, craft a winning resume that is coming up in a couple of weeks. And so you will do that work there. We'll talk about setting goals, getting organized, staying organized, and then we'll get started on some of the ways that we could network. Then we're going to start here. What do you bring to the workplace? Or what is that showing? I'm sorry, there we go. All right, here are some of the things that get in the way of our simple job search. Spending 90 to 100% of our time searching exclusively online. We know that 3 out of 4 jobs are never posted. That means 75% of jobs are never posted, yet we spend 100% of our job search time looking through postings and saying, oh, I'll throw my name in this hat, I'll throw my name in that hat. When in reality, we should be spending 75% of our time doing other things like networking and researching and connecting, and just using 25% of our time to look online, setting up a list of companies that maybe we want to reach out to or a few job boards that are exclusive to our field. So that's one of the things that gets in the way. Making a decision about what job we want even before we have a choice. I talk to a lot of seniors especially, but also, new grads that are like, well, I have to decide if I want to do print journalism or broadcasting. And I like both of them, but I want to make my mind before I put my name in the hats. And I would encourage you to keep putting your name in the hat, right? Put it in broadcasting, put it in multimedia journalism. And that applies to any field because you don't have a choice until you have a choice. So until somebody's given you a job offer, you don't necessarily have a choice to make. So a lot of time is spent on a decision that isn't necessarily helpful at that point. Another thing is waiting for somebody to respond or interpreting that lack of response as something we did wrong. Odds are good it was just a busy person. Their lack of response is reflective of their lives and what they have going on, as opposed to what you did. So this is your job search. We want you to be in control of it. So if there are 5 people that you want to reach out to all 5. And then, some of them are going to respond right away. Some of them, it's going to take a little bit of time to respond. But don't wait. Keep moving forward. Assuming we didn't get a job because of something we did wrong in an interview, that is a common time for people to connect back to the Career Center. They're like, my materials must be good because I'm getting interviews, but I'm never getting a job. And we will do a practice interview, a mock interview, and then we'll find out that they interview great. They're doing a good job of representing their skills and abilities. They're doing a good job of expressing why they want that particular job and what they can contribute to that company's goals and missions. They just weren't selected that time for whatever reason, probably something completely out of their control. So while it is good to kind of do a double check, it's also equally productive to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. If you're getting interviews, you're getting some second interviews, then you know that you're doing a good job. So don't be so hard on yourself. And then believing that networking makes you appear like a desperate job seeker. I have a lot of people say to me something like, yeah, I have a friend who works in publishing, but I don't want to bug them. I should do this myself. And I'm like, that's not bugging them. That means that you understand the role of networking in the world of work. Again, that 3 out of 4 jobs are never posted. So reaching out and doing informational interviews, reaching out for advice, maybe for mentorship, those are all things that make you look like you are confident and proactively moving your job search forward. And then kind of the last thing is focusing on what we want versus what the employer's needs are. So at the end of the day, in the hiring process, the employer's role is to figure out what you can do for them. So if you haven't articulated that, it's hard for them to select you. And a lot of times people believe that just putting it all on the table, right? I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about me right away, right? You need to know that I would prefer to work remote, or that this is a good job for me to get my foot in the door and make some good connections. All of those things are about you, and the employer really wants to know that you are ready to meet their needs. So that can be sometimes in the way of people's simple job search. So tackling this, the first step is just knowing what you bring to the table. Why don't we use the chat for a minute? Here are some of the top skills that people look for when they're hiring: problem-solving skills, analytical, quantitative skills, ability to work in team, communications, written, initiative, strong work ethic. You see a lot of options. Why don't we take just a minute and throw in the chat what some of the skills you believe you bring to the table? First and foremost, what are your strongest spots? If you were to have to say, hello, my name is Lisa Knapp, and some of the skills I bring to the table are connected to storytelling and writing, what would yours be? If it's easier to holler out, that's fine too. Communication and a strong work ethic. Those are both great skills. That's a technical skill and a strong skill. Work experience from my parents' business. Yes, that is something that's valued, right? That's a life experience. You understand business acumen. Some of my skills are efficiency, adaptability, and a strong work ethic. So Ezra, if I were interviewing you, I would ask you how your efficiency and adaptability would work in my environment. Technical skills and great work ethics. I like that you're all including some of these soft skills because they are indicative of success. Good. Thank you for sharing those. So if you are feeling like, abilities, here's a couple others: abilities to build relationships and learning from experience in others, critical thinking, researcher over broad topics, and strong work ethic. Good. Thank you. So keeping those things in mind, if you were not somebody who could quickly come up with one, I'm going to show you a couple exercises that you could do. You could do these on your own, and we're not going to take a lot of time to do these right now because Ashlyn will connect some of these resources to the webinar when she sends it out. But when we're talking about our skills and abilities, it's the things we know, right? What are the specifics you know? I filled this out for myself, right? English literature, communications principles, coaching strategies, music theory. Some of these were from my majors, right? I was an English major and a comm major. Coaching, I took a lot of coaching courses because I did go into secondary ed for a season of my life and coached. But music theory and performance, those all came from my high school life. I had a lot of experience with like Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp and places like that. And then basic graphic design came from an internship I did. So those are things that you know. But then there are the things you do, right? Generate ideas. I can perform on the pianos, teaching others concepts, writing poetry, right? Those are doing. Those are what we would call the transferable skills. These are knowledge bases. All of these are at play in the world of work. And then personal qualities, the things I am, curious, a connector, easy to talk to. Why might these things matter in my job search? When I was interviewing to work as a newspaper reporter, to talk about being a connector, to want to connect the audience to the stories that were happening in our community, I felt like built community development. Being easy to talk to and trustworthy and curious made it so that people would trust me and I could get good information in the interviews. So then I didn't necessarily have to focus so much on things that I knew, right? Because I was focusing on some of those soft skills. Employers hire from any combination of these. If I were to ask one employer, they'd say, oh, I just like people that have good personal qualities. And others would be like, yeah, we liked them, but there was nothing that they could do for us. Or they didn't really understand this field and industry. They had the skills. I think we could teach them about industry. So those are all places and spaces that people do. So this is an exercise you could do on your own, the skills triangle. So if you're feeling like you don't know how to articulate, that's one place to start. The other thing I think that will happen when you do this is it will show you a lot of skills that you haven't even been thinking about. Sometimes we forget about our skills because we feel like everybody has them. Another exercise that you can do is, what am I qualified for? Whoops. There we go. What am I qualified for? Instead of asking what you're qualified for, ask what skills have I developed? As a college grad, we know that you develop these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 skills. They line up with those NACE skills that I showed you earlier. But then you're also developing skills through majors and minors. And you have experiences, whether it's a student org or a study abroad, or maybe you're a volunteer somewhere, summer jobs, all of those things. And then again, personal qualities. For some people, they like this skills inventory better than others, but these are some ways to think about it. And then these arrows represent like where you're at on that continuum, because we know that everybody doesn't come in with the same level of communication skills, and they don't leave with the same level of leadership skills. And so when you're doing your skills assessment, think about which skills you want to use, what skills are best to meet the employer's needs. So one time you may talk about your leadership skills, and another time you might talk about your problem solving skills. It just depends. And then you would put them in context and what you're doing. So here we are going to break for a short exercise. Now, maybe you want to take a second to jot the skills triangle, or maybe you want to work with this. But my challenge to you is reflecting on your skills and experiences. Can you write a summary statement of what you wanted to contribute to a general workplace? Without a job posting in front of you, this exercise is a little bit different, but this is part of your networking as you're telling people what it is you want to do. So this example, over the past 4 years, I've developed strong leadership skills related to listening to others, taking time to understand, and asking appropriate questions. So that's one part soft skill, one part listening, or one part technical. Additionally, through my studies, some of my technical skills I'm excited to use include creating media kits, writing communications plans, and using a variety of social media tools. Those came from your major. right? Or if you were an PR major or maybe a communications major. Finally, through my study abroad experiences, I learned that I have a higher tolerance for ambiguity than I thought. I've always been a highly organized planner and thought that was my key to success. See how they worked in that second statement? However, being adaptable and flexible afforded me great experiences I couldn't have planned for. So we're going to stop. Let's see, it is 4:22. Let's take just 3-4 minutes and see if you can't get started with what would be skills you could highlight. Could you write it into a 1 or 2 sentence statement? Take just 1 more minute, kind of wrap up what your thoughts are. Myself. Now I'm going to bring everybody back. Give me a little bit of feedback. You can shout it out or put it in the chat, whatever works best for you. Where did you find yourself going? Did you write the statement? Was it all of a sudden really easy to kind of put it into a statement when you see something modeled like that? Or did you go back to kind of square one and do some skills? Like I need to think about my skills more intently. Mustafa, you dropped it right in the chat. I'm eager to apply my technical and organizational skills in various environments to bring about productive solutions. I love using my problem solving skills to troubleshoot issues and to find creative solutions using red development tools. See, the way that, thank you for sharing that, the way that you are so specific in that, it makes it easy for somebody like myself to think like, oh, I know 4 people maybe that you should talk to, that you should connect with, right? Someone else give me some feedback. And the feedback could be what got in the way of your ability to do this. So Vaughn, thank you for sharing. In my experience, I've worked to grow my independent skills as well as my ability to work well with others. I have developed analytical and procedural laboratory skills. So see, there's the target, while learning how to research and talk with fellows, some of the soft skills and technical skills of the field. My goals are to continue to be a lifelong learner while engaging in the scientific community. Very specific target. Thank you, Vaughn. Where do you think people would use, and anybody can answer this, where do you think you would use statements like these? Personal summary, yes. On a personal statement, cover letters, yep, cover letters. Yes, this could live in a cover letter. Personal summaries for graduate and professional programs. Parts of this could be developed in your networking. If you were to reach out to an alumni, say, or yep, LinkedIn is another place that it could be used. It could be part of your summary statement or the About Me section. You know, a lifelong learner engaging in the scientific community could be a tagline at the top of that, of your resume, maybe even. So there are a lot of places to learn this in introductions. You know, I'm Lisa Knapp. I work in the Career Center and I get to walk alongside individuals while they're making a clear career plan and setting goals and connections, right? So there are a lot of places that you could use this. If you haven't done something like this, I would encourage this to be one of your takeaway assignments, to sit a little bit, assess your skills, write a summary statement so that you can use this in a variety of ways. Some people might even call this your elevator pitch, right? If you had 30 seconds to 1 minute, I like 1 or 2 sentences. I think those are good spaces. So good. Thank you for sharing those. And if you are feeling stuck, if you're kind of like, ooh, I could not do that yet, that's a good place. That's a good goal to set for yourself, is I'm really going to spend some time on those skills. All right. So back to the presentation. Up next is really, let's see if I can move it forward. I think I get impatient. I don't wait for it to load.
I find that you can't use your keyboard. You have to actually click with your mouse.
Oh, that's good to know. There we go. All right. So first step, assessing your skills. Second is preparing your job search. Like we said, craft a winning resume is where we want you to. Oh, we missed a step. See, that's what, there we go. Identify your skills and then explore your options. So as you're thinking about your job search options, and this is a good time to maybe have a big piece of paper. A lot of times that what am I qualified for is followed up by, all right, so now I kind of know what I bring to the table, what I can contribute, but now where do I go with that? And here are 3 questions that can help you start to shape your job search so that you're not just like throwing a stone into Lake Michigan, right? We're trying to create a few mud puddles that we can drop a stone in and see the ripples and see what's happening and where it lands. So one question to ask yourself is, where do I want to live? Right? A lot of people organize a job search based on location. They want to move to Austin, Texas, or they want to live in West Michigan, or they want to live in an urban center. Maybe they want to live overseas. Once you've identified a geography, then get on Google. What are the top companies to work for there? The best companies that are there. Get on LinkedIn and search alumni. You are able to go into the Grand Valley alumni page and search where people live. So if Austin, Texas is your target, get on LinkedIn and see who all is living in Austin, Texas, and then start to systematically reach out to them. Maybe first you reach out to the people that studied what you studied, and then you reach out to people who are working in a field you want. I'm going to use communications again as an example because that's the area I work most closely with, but that could be marketing. It could be communications in the arts, it could be written communications, it could be any number of things. So start building that list that builds you lists of people that are living in the area, as well as places and organizations that you could work for. And then as you're starting to work through researching those companies, you can formulate some questions, right? What do I need to know about GoDaddy.com before I move to Austin, Texas, or before I reach out to somebody from GoDaddy's human resources office and ask them questions? right? Oh, look, here's an alumni who's worked there. I could talk to them first, then I could reach out to the HR. So kind of systematically, where do I want to live? What companies and organizations are there? Another way about this is, where do I want to work? So I always tell people Herman Miller is one of my favorite companies. I just think they do a lot of things really well. They're Miller Knoll now. Um, they're focused on community. They have a wide variety of roles and people that can be successful there. And so if Herman Miller were one of my targets, I might say, what could I do there? And that would lead me on a quest of, going through LinkedIn profiles and seeing what kinds of things people have done, if any of my skills line up with their skills or my experiences line up with their experiences. It might involve connecting with a company. A lot of companies, especially those big companies we aspire to work for, have recruiters. They have a college to career. It might be a talent acquisition. It might be pipeline recruiters, university relations. All of those people, their entire job is to get to know us and potentially hire us. So reaching out to them. And then also being cognizant of what's in your own area. Again, this might be another Google search. I have somebody right now I'm working with who wants to work with kids, but not be a teacher. And so we have literally just been Googling jobs with kids, places, where people work with autistic kids, things like that. And from those Google searches, we're starting to identify a list of companies then that they will systematically research and try to network with. And then finally, a way to kind of get at this is, what do I want to do and where could I do that? So maybe your approach is, I know I want to be a copywriter. That is the only thing I want to do, right? If you tell me, Lisa, that's all I want to do, then I'm going to look at it in, where could I do that? What industries could I work in? Probably with copywriting, you could work in almost any industry, because everybody has written materials that go out. And so from there, I would start to, what industry am I most interested in? What companies am I most interested in? And then I would start my searching there. Now, I know that this, maybe you're thinking this, I know this flies in the face of that simple job search advice of, don't make a decision before you have a decision. I'm not saying you're committing to, this is the only place I want to do this. I'm just saying this is a way to start to make it manageable, make those little mud puddles that you can explore and do a deep dive in. So why don't we take this will take just a shorter amount of time. Why don't we take just 2 minutes and answer one of these questions or all three of these questions for yourself? So 4:34, take a couple minutes. Ezra, thanks for helping us transition. So you should kind of wrap up right now. But yeah, so Ezra, I would like to live around Grand Rapids at least a few more years and want to work somewhere where spatial analysts, GIS, and sustainable planning skills can be put to use. So that's a pretty specific target that allows us to then start to identify the companies that you might be able to work with, right? Engineering firms, architectural firms, cities, right? Grand Rapids City has potential. Waste management might be a place that you could work. Mustafa wants to get to Google. You know what? I don't think that they were here last year, but about once a year for 5 years, Google would just drop into Handshake a thing that said, we're running a design thinking exercise with West Michigan college students, and you could then participate in their workshop. And if they thought that you were Google material, they would bring you forward in the mix. So I know we do have a couple alumni that work at Google. Good. Other people, how'd you answer? You're welcome. So these are some of the places as you're creating these lists. These are some of the things that you can start doing. Get into Handshake and follow those people, like them and follow them. Then if a place like Google comes to West Michigan, you will get an alert, a notification that says, here they're coming. Maybe you're following companies on social media. A lot of companies have Instagram and Facebook. And so that's a way to start to learn more about companies. Other ways to research companies, through informational interviewing, which is when you reach out to somebody on the Career Center website. There is a great tool under networking that talks about informational interviewing. It gives you a script to get started. It gives you some sample questions, and it gives you the step-by-step instructions for how to make connections through Handshake and LinkedIn. So those are all things as you start to answer these questions for you. And again, it just should be like pushing you to a focused area that you can work on as you're conducting your job search. So any questions? I've been doing a lot of talking, although I appreciate the chat interaction. Any questions about skills or how to start to identify targets? Okay. Oh, thank you, Danny. Danny works in our office and she just put the link for the informational interviews right into the chat. So I appreciate that. You can all kind of go there. And what informational interviewing does, why it's so nice is you're not asking for a job, you're asking for information. What's it like to work here? How did you get here? What kinds of advice would you have for somebody who's trying to land in this field? Who are other people I should be talking to as I'm trying to get this information? And if you call somebody and they say, ask to do an informational interview and they say, oh, I don't need to, or we're not hiring right now. It's okay to say, that's okay. Right now, I am just trying to get some good information so that as I'm conducting my job search, I can make the best use of my time and the time of others. And what that will do is it's going to build you a good reputation. It's going to get you a lot of good information. And because you had your very specific skills summary statement, they're going to remember you. So maybe trying to look up in the chat, Ezra, was it you who was GIS? Yes. So Ezra was talking about GIS. Let's say Ezra does an informational interview with somebody at Waste Management. They have this great conversation. They're like, oh, Ezra is so, articulate and what a good young person with good work ethic. I wish we had something for him. And then maybe 6 weeks later, something comes up and they're looking for an entry-level position where they have GIS and planning skills. Then Ezra is going to be thought of. And that person that you did the informational interview is going to reach out to you and say, hey, here's somebody you should go talk to. So that's part of what we're trying to generate with these strategies, is kind of being known and having our network start to do the job search for us. That can be a really lovely thing. Less work for us, right? So then there we go. So craft the winning resume. That's our step 3. That will happen at the next workshop. And so we're going to just talk about getting organized because that is our 4th step, right? Getting organized, staying organized. This is a good place to do what makes sense for you, right? First, set some goals. What is your goal? We just did a little bit of that with the where do you want to work? Where do you want to live? There we go. Why is this job ideal for you? Right? Do you have education in this area, work experience? Right? Write out your answers. What are challenges and or obstacles that you have in reaching this goal? Right? This is a common one with students. I renewed my lease before I had a job, and now my job search is limited to hiring. How do I remove these?
Excuse me, I cannot hear you.
Oh, yep. Sorry, Lisa. I still can't hear you, but you're not on mute, so I'm not sure if your headset popped off at all.
Did I come back?
Yes, you're back
All right.
now.
Yep, I must have leaned on it. Sorry about that. So you can kind of read through these, right? How do you remove those obstacles? This person did some research and found out that if they made a certain salary, they actually would pay to buy out their lease. And thank you, Adriana, for saying something. Who will help you reach this goal, right? So as you're starting to make these connections, who are the people that are going to help you get to where you want? And maybe this is how you make some of the list of who you want to network with. I think that so-and-so would be a great resource for me as I'm trying to reach this goal. Set up the informational interview and then just be explicit. I'm hoping you can introduce me to 2 other people. And then what are the steps? And then pick one step right away, right? That immediate goal, you're going to have short-term goals, long-term goals, and then those immediate goals. What am I going to do in the next week? Hopefully when you hang up from the webinar, your immediate goals might be this week, I will build that skills summary. I will identify some of those companies and job targets, maybe 5 to 10 of them. I will get organized in terms of what my goals are so that I can make an action plan. And then it brings me to this. Organization begins with awareness of what doesn't work for us. So a lot of times people will say, how do I lay this out? What do I do? And I say, well, how do you organize other things? So for instance, I am not a very linear thinking person, like a chart, an Excel spreadsheet, all of those would make me a little bit crazy. I would not be able to maintain that because I would be so worried about getting all the information into my Excel spreadsheet that I would forget to do the work that I needed to be doing. For other people, having that Excel spreadsheet, maybe they have a worksheet for Austin, Texas, they have one for West Michigan, they have one for copywriting, they have one for Herman Miller, and then they literally list anything that they've done. Today I researched, here's what I learned, today I did this, talk to this person, these are the takeaways, here are my action steps following that meeting. Here's something new I learned, here's a new question I have, right? However it works for you is what you should do. Maybe you are a visual person, maybe you're drawing your job search plan out and you're writing some of those connections around the drawing. Maybe you're a sticky note person, maybe you have a vision board, maybe you just have a notework. Whatever it is, do what's not going to get in the way of you doing the actual job search. What are some of the ways that you all do organize things? What are some ideas that maybe you have that you can share with the group? Because that's where we learn from each other. And those you can just throw in the chat. And if you're not sure where to start, think about how did you organize your academics? Oh, there's 8 new, I'm sorry, there's 8 new messages and I was waiting for them to come in. All right, calendar, yes, calendar and Google Sheets are good. Google Keep, it's like a digital sticky note. Thank you, Danny, for that one. Spreadsheets, I also have a binder with sections for past jobs, reviews, resumes, good. Keeping your past performance reviews and things like that, that is good practice. Keeping a notepad open most of the time, electronic pen or paper planners, notepads, whiteboards. Kristen and I use whiteboards too, I like those. I like building arrows or building blocks, things like that, different buckets that I put in. So good, those are all good. And hopefully maybe you heard of something that you wouldn't think of before. I am going to share one piece of advice that another student had given me as it related to this, because getting organized is the start of it, but then staying organized, right, is the next step. And staying on task, there we go. Staying organized. So once you've started a system and you're working your way through it, keep coming back to it. But one of the things that's helpful as it relates to that is setting a time. Maybe if 3 out of 4 jobs are never posted, let's say you have 1 hour a day, 4 days a week, then perhaps you want to have 3 of those days be working on networking, researching, identifying new targets, and only 1 of those days working on reading through job postings. So maybe you organize it that way. Maybe you have 1 set time a week. There's an old adage out there, a 40-hour job search requires 40 hours of job searching. There are people that subscribe to that, and they tend to land a little quicker than people that have to spread out their job search a little longer. You have to do what works for you, but staying organized also involves keeping track of what people have said, what you've learned, and then following up with thank you notes. I think that that's mission critical. It's putting lots of good karma out in the world, but it's also good practice, right? Because it allows you to reflect on what interaction with that person was, what you learned, what your takeaways were, because you're going to share that in a thank you note. So staying organized. One other thing, and this is the piece of advice that the student mentioned, was she would get overwhelmed. She had 1 3-hour block each week. And at first she would sit down and she would look at all these goals that she had made and these targets, and she'd be like, I don't know where to start. And so she stopped doing that. And because she was also walking down through the week going, oh my goodness, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. And she started keeping a notebook where she literally just wrote what the task. If something came in, read about Herman Miller. What do they do? What are other companies like Herman Miller? Reach out to that alumni I was in class with 2 years ago. Find his name from my professor, right? Whatever those to-do things were, they just kept in the notebook. Then it was out of sight, out of mind until their work time. And then when they opened it up, they already had a job list of things to do, and they didn't lose time during their job search time trying to create what it was they were going to do with their job search time. So that's another thing that I think has been really helpful for a lot of people. So, and then lastly, we're going to talk about networking. Networking, for some of you, it might make your stomach hurt because it feels snarky and fake and like you have a surface conversation. I am not proposing that kind of networking. We're talking about making connections, gaining information, a way to personally and professionally embed yourself into a community, and just get engaged in the whole process. So thinking about who is in your network, who do you want in your network, and how do you network? So first, who is in your network? Here's another time we're going to shut the slide off, and I'm going to prompt you. So grab those papers again. We're going to start to build your network list. And this is no editing. I'm going to say some things pretty quickly, and I want you just to keep writing. Don't say, oh no, that wouldn't be a good person. We don't care. We just want them on the paper. So the first thing I want you to do is write down 5 of your parents' friends. 5 of your parents' friends. Now write down 5 of your friends' parents. Think of 5 of your friends and write down their parents. Then write down 5 people that graduated ahead of you at Grand Valley. Now write down 5 people you went to high school with. Now write down 5 of your teachers or professors, like high school teachers, elementary teachers. Teachers stay connected. Now think about any team or club or theater program that you've been a part of, and write down 5 people from there. Now write down 5 people that you come across every week, but you don't have a strong connection with. Think about like the gas station attendant that always rings you up, and think about maybe the nurse at your doctor's office. But think about 5 people that you come in contact with regularly that really you have a relationship with, but not a strong relationship with. Now write down 5 aunts, uncles, cousins, And now write down 5 people you know that are doing work similar to what you want to do. Maybe you don't know them, that's okay. And then let's do one more. How about 5 people that you used to work with in any capacity? Again, you can respond in the chat and I'll try to keep it moving here. But you should have almost 50 names. When you look back at those names, do you know where everybody works? Do you know what everybody does? I think my chat is slow. I suspect you don't know what everybody does and where everybody works. So sometimes that can be a place to start with your networking is, look at that list. Who are the people that you maybe could reach out to with a social media post? My daughter one time got an internship opportunity because she updated her old aunts on Facebook, said, "Hey, I'm no longer in nursing. This is what I'm doing." And one of my college friends responded to her and said, "Hey, we have internships at our organization if you're ever interested." That's a connection she didn't even know she had. Sometimes family members, we don't know what they do. Whenever I do this exercise in class, sometimes people are like, "Yeah, I don't know what my dad does. Um, I know he works at such and such a place." Our natural inclination is not to talk extensively about the work that we do. So there are people that are connected in our lives that may have access to a connection that would be helpful for us or information that we should have, maybe some leads or ideas. So continue to kind of work through the lists of people you know without editing people out, because quite often what we'll do is like, oh, I don't know anybody who would. 2 of my favorite networking stories. One, I had a student in here who was really upset when I said, informational interviewing is the way that you network. And she says, "I don't know anyone in publishing." And she went home very angry. And she talked to her mom, and her mom's like, "Oh, Mary next door, she works in publishing. She's done that your whole life." They'd literally lived next to each other their whole lives and didn't know. She didn't know what she was doing, and she didn't know what she was going into. Very easy connection. Another time I was in the gas station. The gas station attendant had worked there for years. A lady was from Sandy Pines campground buying some pots and pans. And the attendant said, "So making a big dinner?" And she's like, "Yep, I'm trying to get my son and his new girlfriend to come here and work so that they'll move close to home." And she goes, the attendant says, "What do they do?" And she says, "Oh, they're doctors." And the attendant said to the mom, she says, "Oh, my son does all the hiring at Metro Health." What? Right? They exchanged numbers. One of those people became a doctor at Metro Health because of that random interaction where they shared their story and talked about what was going on. So networking doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple. And the more that you're looking for opportunities to network, the more that you'll find them in random places. So then lastly, kind of, who do you want in your network? We've talked about that. And then the how do you network? Informational interviewing. For whatever reason, it's not advancing again, but here we go. We'll give it a try. There we go. Practice interviewing or introducing yourself to others whenever you can. Remember, body language is important. There are a lot of people that are places where they're looking down all the time, so they don't make good eye contact. They don't get to connect with somebody. Maybe they've missed the chance that somebody standing in line had a Gordon Food Service shirt on, and that was one of your places you wanted to be. Know why you're reaching out to somebody. If you set up a meeting, know what you're asking for, what you're asking, what's your why. I want to meet with you because you are working in the communications field at Gordon Food Service. Gordon Food Service has such a phenomenal reputation. And I have this background knowledge base of culinary from when I was in high school. So I have an understanding of the food industry. You're doing great work. And I'm just wondering what kinds of communications roles you have in your company. So could I have 20 minutes of your time? Remember, people will remember the way you made them feel. So ask questions. You work at Grand Valley. What's changed in your time there? I'm going to have to stop and go, oh, what has changed? And then lastly, follow up is key. Write a note, connect on LinkedIn, send an article or an idea, The what that you do is not as important in this instance as the intent. Just make sure that it's genuine and mutually beneficial to you both. We don't have a lot of time for questions, but I will say this, your homework really then is to build that summary statement, skills statement, have an understanding of what skills you bring to the table, building out those target areas, and then thinking about who's in your network and then continue to systematically work for that. Once you're organized, get organized, right? And then start systematically doing the research, the networking, and the applying. So are there any questions with these last few minutes?
You can use the chat or just unmute yourself,
Mhm.
whatever your preference.
No questions. I just feel
Oh.
encouraged to start talking with others. Thank you, Vaughn. Yeah, that is one of the takeaways, I hope, that you'll look at this and go, it's simple. It's as simple as talking to people, but we know that's not easy. So if you need a pep talk, the Career Center loves to pep talk, right, Danny? Yeah.
All
Thank you.
right.
You're
Well,
welcome.
thank
Hello.
you. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and hello to everyone. Please, I wanted to ask, could we use the networking for our jobs? Could we start from, for instance, our professors and
Mhm.
some of our colleagues that we attend class with who are currently working? Thank you.
Yes. Yes, Mustafa, that's a great way to start. Sometimes I draw a little circle in the page and then I write to all the people that could reach out, right? You start to make a mind map. So my professor, and then that leads to these 3 people, and then those 3 people lead to 4 more people, right? And suddenly you have a big network. We know that 12 networking conversations equal 200 sent out resumes. So we would all rather talk to people, right? So I encourage you to do that, but faculty are a great place to start because they are connected to alumni and they're often connected to industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Yep, you're welcome. Can I schedule a meeting with the Career Center online? Yes, I'm assuming I can find the link to the GV website. Yes, and there is, you can schedule it through Handshake. If you are not in Handshake for some reason, depending on when you graduated, you can always call our office, which is 616-331-3311. And Danny dropped the Handshake link in the chat room as well. So thank you for that, Danny.
Oh, you beat me to it, Danny.
Yep.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, I just want to thank you, Lisa. It is always a privilege to have you help us facilitate these workshops. Thank you, everyone who took the time and joined us this afternoon. And thank you for bearing with our technical issues.
Yeah.
Please consider joining us for additional upcoming programming that will take place over the next few weeks. We will address other topics, including preparing resumes and cover letters, evaluating a job offer, salary negotiation, and more. We encourage you to use both the Alumni Relations Office and the Career Center as a resource for your continued growth. The current career series is running virtually, taking place every other Tuesday at 4 p.m. The next session is Craft a Winning Resume, which will happen on June 6th at, again, 4 p.m. virtually. For any additional resources and for future events, we encourage you to check out our website, gvsu.edu/alumni. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Mm-hmm.